Okay, everybody's mic on. Okay. To clarify, this is a monthly work session of the mayor and council. This is a meeting that is held each month to allow the members to discuss specific items in preparation for the regular council meeting, which is held the second Tuesday of each month. The dialogue of this meeting will be between the mayor, council, and staff members. The time for citizens' involvement will come at a later regular meeting to be held next Tuesday during the citizens' input portion of the meeting. We respectfully ask that you hold your comments or any questions until that time unless called upon. Once the meeting is adjourned, we ask that everyone exit the meeting room and the property in a timely manner. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Peters, if you would. And welcome to Lewisburg.
Thank you. First of all, you have a beautiful town. I've only saw a little on the way in, but very nice and very hospitable. Those of you who I've had a chance to talk to. My name is Brad Peters. I'm a public works and engineering consultant with MTAS. As I was telling the mayor and some of the council members who were here a little earlier, I've been with MTAS about 3 years. Prior to that, I was the public works director and city engineer for Greenville for 17 years, and prior to that, I worked for TDOT. So, not going to claim to be an expert on anything, but working for Greenville as long as I did, I've had a lot of experience, pretty broad range of experience in my career. I come to you tonight not with a formal presentation, but really just to answer questions and give insight. I know you have requested information about traffic calming. The reason I don't like to do a formal presentation is because I don't want you to think I'm trying to sell you something, because traffic calming is somewhat of a divisive issue. You know, there's the one school of thought that it's a end-all, be-all to solving traffic issues, and then there's another train of thought that it's just a tool in the toolbox. So I like, you know, and every city's different on how they look at some of these things. So I just like to present information, answer questions, and then let you all decide, since you're the policy makers for the city. So I'll just begin by opening up with any questions, or I can.
First of all, we understand you, upon request, at no cost, do traffic studies. Is that a true statement?
That's correct. Now, I will caveat that by saying we can't do like a citywide study. If you have a specific area, you know, 2, 3, 4 streets, then, well, let me back up and just start. Let me change my, take backwater on what I just said and kind of give you a presentation. When we talk about traffic calming, specifically speed humps, what cities have found and engineers have found over the years is that a lot of times they are implemented based on citizen perception. Sometimes politics gets involved, I'll just be honest with you. And what we like to do at MTAS, and what if you talk to traffic engineers, the first thing we want to do is establish what is actually going on, okay? Because all of you, you know, you may not live in a residential subdivision, but all of us live on a public street, and sometimes our perception of the traffic situation is different than what it actually is. And we were talking earlier, before all of you got here, working out on the interstate projects when I was with TDOT. You know, when you're on the shoulder of a highway or an interstate, a car traveling at 70 miles an hour seems like it's doing 100, okay? And so what we advise to do is, before you make any decisions on any structural implementation or changing speed limits, is just see what the actual data is. So what I typically do for cities is I'll come in and, you know, you give me the streets you want me to look at, and we'll put, typically I like to use radar counters. They're a lot easier to set up. They're safer for me to set up, but they're inconspicuous. Most of the time people don't even know they're there. They're just mounted to a utility pole. And from those, we can tell you how many vehicles are on that street and how fast they're going. and then that way you can make an informed decision from there. But typically what most cities do as far as their traffic calming policies, and I'm going to isolate this to speed humps, is they will set a threshold that says, okay, we're not going to even consider it unless the actual 85th percentile, which is the measurement we use in engineering to determine what the majority of people actually travel on that road, okay? It's not the average speed, it's what 85% of the motorists are going, and that's just a generally accepted practice. A lot of cities will say, okay, we're not even going to consider anything unless that 85th percentile speed is 5 miles over the posted speed limit, and in some cases 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. And then that way you can, again, you have that baseline and that data to support the perception that you do have a speeding problem, okay? And again, 5 miles over the speed limit doesn't sound like a lot, but in a residential area it is. And you all know from driving, all of you know that, one slip up, one, not paying attention for a split second in a residential area can cause, a lot of damage. So that's generally what most cities do. So some of you may be wondering, I'm curious about why I keep saying speed hump. A speed hump and a speed bump technically are two different things. A speed bump is typically more narrow. It's something you see in a parking lot or maybe a private drive. And those are intended typically to slow the traffic down to the 5 to 10 mile an hour range, whereas a speed hump has a similar height, but they're wider. And they're meant to not really make a car have to come to almost a complete stop. You can travel over those just by slowing down a little bit, typically. Some cities, we did this in Greenville, we actually purchased, a lot of manufacturers make pre-formed or, pre-made speed humps that you just nail down with spikes into the street. That way, if they don't work, you just take them up and no harm, no foul. But if it's something you think is going to be a long-term solution, I would suggest you make them out of asphalt and use the proper pavement markings on them. So that's kind of a 30,000-foot view on speed humps. I mean, we can talk about different other kinds of traffic calming, but typically, when you start talking about changing street characteristics, you talk about a lot of money. So most cities just kind of focus on the speed humps to begin with and go from there. So, do y'all have any questions?
Well, we recently had a request to consider a four-way stop
Okay.
as an effort to slow down traffic on Fifth Avenue South. Councilman, would you expand on that?
Yeah, it's 8th Avenue South. Yeah, it's kind of when you turn off a state highway, 4-lane highway, kind of goes up a hill, and then it's a two-way stop
Right.
on each side, but we were thinking about, one of the residents had requested, could you put a four-way stop there? And I think, I'll talk about Shannon since she's not here, but Shannon had brought it to my attention, that empty seat, that one of the neighbors there had requested to, slow down for the children and things like that. And once, I guess, I don't know if we even decided, but the school buses, I think he talked to some people that drive the school buses, and they didn't think a four-way stop would be good for a school bus in that area. So we was just trying to figure out how to do that. Now, up the hill from that, I don't know the proper feet. We don't have a map with us, but there is a four-way stop on up the hill.
Maple.
They,
8th and Maple.
yeah, 8th and Maple, right. But they come off the hill, kind of flying past that. But so we're just trying to figure out if, I guess it now is a speed hump.
Well, let me say this, and again, I'm not a traffic engineer. I just, have dealt with issues like this in my career. But typically, traffic engineers do not advise using four-way stops to slow traffic down. That's just a generally accepted. That doesn't mean you can't do it, and that doesn't mean that it's not necessary, because typically what we do on a multi-way stop is measure the traffic, specifically the quantity of cars or the volume of cars coming through, and determine which leg has the most traffic, and go from there. There's formulas you run that through, so it's not a subjective thing. It's, you just recommend what the data says. And we can look at intersections, we can look at, whatever you'd like us to do without, I can't do too many, but,
What's the time from the time, if we decide we want you to do one or two or three, however many, at least, we're talking about 8th Avenue, what's the time from the request till completion usually?
I've got one going now in Von Orr, which I'll pick those counters up Friday, and I could do it this month.
Okay.
I don't know exactly the date or when I get finished and write the report up, but.
But you get a report back.
Right, yeah, I'll give you a report. And again, I just give you the data and let you all make the decision.
So the first thing you would do then would put a camera up to analyze the data. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right, yeah.
Is that,
How long will you leave that up?
I typically leave them up a week. Now, let me say this, some cities like to do it when school's in session.
That was gonna be my next question, is
So if,
should we wait till school?
you may want to wait and do it in the fall. It's totally up to you. And let me add this too, I should have said this earlier. Most cities in their traffic calming policies, they ask the public for some buy-in. And because what I saw a lot in my career in Greenville is, you may have a neighborhood of 20 houses, and 2 of them want a speed hump and the rest of them don't.
That was the next question, and
So different cities handle it different ways, but typically what most cities do, and again, that'd be your decision, but they require the citizen to basically have a point of contact, the neighborhood to have a point of contact. They go out and collect signatures, get a consensus from the neighborhood of at least the majority, simple majority, and then also determine. Now you have to use some common sense and engineering judgment to determine where to put it, but you typically like to get permission from the person or people whose residence it'll be in front of, because it will create a little bit of noise and some not really pollution in low volume areas, but it will kind of become quite sort of a nuisance. So we suggest you do that. You don't have to, but that's what most cities do.
one that I've been interested for some time is 3rd Avenue North. That's just a few streets over. We have how many 4-way stops on that street? We got Church Street, the next street, we Skipper Street, and then another stop, Condition. And I think that's been that way for many years. And I think that was probably initiated by someone trying to slow the traffic down. But I'd like that one.
talking about right there in front of Russell.
Well, you
Yeah.
have Melodies, and you have London Funeral Home, and then you have Fifth Avenue, and then there's a 4-way stop on every side street up there. Right, yeah.
Is that where the church is, the,
Yeah.
church?
Right in
that
front of
they have?
Hardison,
Yeah, going down towards Hardison.
going up the hill to Church Street.
Yeah. Yeah, at least 3, yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that most of the time, 4-way stops are not recommended to slow traffic. Is there a particular reason?
Because typically, when you look at the traffic going in north-south and east-west, for example, typically there's a lot more traffic in one direction.
Correct.
So you don't want to slow those cars down or make them come to a complete stop just because of an issue with the other approach.
But wonder if the issue is the road that has the most traffic on it, slowing them down,
Well,
instead of a speed hump.
again, that's just a rule. It's not a hard rule. It's
Okay.
just, generally recommended that you don't use them to slow
This
traffic down.
particular road has got a perfect place for a four-way stop, but the two side streets that come on it don't meet. They're like that.
They're offset, okay.
They're offset.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they've got stop signs.
Right.
But the main road doesn't. Would a four-way stop, would that inhibit a four-way stop from going there because the roads don't meet?
It wouldn't, but and I'm just speaking.
Right, you don't know it, you haven't studied it. I
Yeah, but
understand.
typically, offset intersections have more accidents just because there's typically some confusion on who's got the right of way. But, I mean, probably not an increase in accidents with injury, just fender benders and stuff. But again, we can look at it if that's what you want.
Talking about the offset cut. Somebody say something?
No.
You talking about that street that you?
Ashwood, yeah, by Bowden's house.
Talk about Second Avenue and College Street and that offset. We talked about that.
We actually have two. We've got one on, through the subdivision. And then we have one that's, I guess it's like a main road in town,
It's a
just
state
coming
highway.
it's a state highway. That they are offset as well, and there's a red light there. At one time, one of the side roads had a school there. I guess it was an elementary school. I wasn't here then, but that school's been closed. So there's been a lot of talk about whether that red light's necessary, but it's offsetting as well. So, did you have a question about it?
Well, that's one
Well,
of the places I was studying. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, as far as red lights, I mean, red lights are rarely necessary. They're more for convenience. They're more to allow people to turn left. I mean, I had a transportation professor in college that always said, in a perfect world, there'd be no left turns. So, I mean, that's typically why you have
Well, at one time,
signalized intersections.
yeah, that school was there, and I'm sure that red
Yeah.
light was very necessary, but that school's
And I
been
mean,
closed for a long time.
cities remove traffic lights all the time. That's not unheard of, but,
Yeah,
but
there's
that's-
such thing as a political light too. and I can-
they're very much so, yeah.
Further questions?
So we do want to let them do that study
But we're saying wait till the fall to do it.
or till the fall?
Wait till the kids are back in school.
And I can coordinate with Gina or your police chief or whoever.
Gina, would you mind putting those streets down we was talking about?
You'll get,
So we'll all remember 8th Avenue and, what'd you say, Mayor, 3rd?
Is it
yeah,
Maple?
3rd Avenue North, and then Nashville,
2nd Avenue?
2nd Avenue at College Street, and I don't know what the other one is.
It
And
would
then-
be Hull at Ashwood, and what's that name of the other street that goes down to the lake over there?
Lake Hill Circle? No, I don't know if it's,
Is it
It
Jefferson?
goes between Hull and Ashwood?
Yeah, the
no,
one that goes to Lake Hill. What?
Taylor.
Taylor, so it would be Ashwood, Taylor, and Hull.
Okay.
They're offsetting each other, so it's two names to the streets.
Okay.
yeah, Jefferson's further towards White Drive. So we could, just for your information, we can also circle those on a map for you and in anticipation of us making a request, if that's, would be helpful. Everybody
Okay.
good with that?
And then, so you do want to wait till the fall? Is that what I'm hearing?
I think the one on 8th and Cedar, is that what it is? There, that was the bus
For
garage.
sure, on that
On
one.
that
That was
one.
the bus
Yeah,
one.
that's a cut-through street, so is
Whole.
Hull.
A cut-through street, so you're gonna have a lot more traffic on the, during
So
school.
them two. Okay.
Okay, you can just email me the list.
Looks like 2 we could go ahead and do, and then 2 hold off into the fall
Okay.
for traffic due to buses and,
Was it easier for him to do all while you're here?
do you want to?
No, I can come back.
I mean, They could drive 5 hours in the end.
I made 4 trips to, the name of the town escapes me now. It's below Cookville, so I'm this way. I mean, my territory's all the way to Nashville, so it's,
Oh, okay.
I'm not out of the way or anything.
Do the traffic studies ever suggest, calming methods to, whether it's maybe widening the sidewalk or putting in different markings or things like that, just to narrow the street and slow things down, or is there, or do you, if the city asks, well, should we put a speed hump here, say, yes, it's justified, or no, it's justified, or what would they say?
Well, there's not a lot of difference in the criteria for a speed hump or a narrower street or any type of physical alteration to the street. It's just, most time it's just a issue of cost. I mean, some larger cities, and I'm talking about Nashville type cities, they may just go in and completely redesign a street and put curves and chokers and roundabouts and just different things. Roundabouts are kind of one of the more popular, more common methods, but, some people like them and some don't, but they are expensive.
We have a roundabout called the Square.
Okay, yeah,
Lots of people can't drive that, so.
yeah, they can be confusing, but they do slow traffic down, so.
Would we be comfortable in asking him to consider putting on the list for the near future, 3rd Avenue North with all those stop signs and the one on 2nd Avenue at College with the office? That wouldn't be school related, would it?
No, I don't think Second Avenue and College is school related, do y'all think?
That's the two
She's
I was
already got
talking
that
about.
already.
Yeah,
he could go
going
ahead
in
and
and
do it.
doing that,
Is
Yes.
that,
and all those stop
I'm
signs.
good with that.
Linda?
Yep.
Ronnie, you good? You good with that? Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking your time, and we wish you a safe trip back.
Well, I appreciate it. It was a good meeting those of you I got a chance to talk to, and
Just a minute.
before I leave, let me plug MTS a little bit. I don't know how much you guys are familiar with MTS or what we do, but I see some of your first responders here. So we have police, fire, HR, management, finance, utilities. We pretty much consult on anything except parks and recreation.
Before you leave, Gina, tell what you was.
It's a question for Mr. Hutto. We've got that deferred until this coming meeting on that 4-way stop, so can we go ahead and put it on? And if y'all want to, however y'all want to vote on it. But yes, it got deferred, and we've got to put it back on the table.
Why don't we just leave it deferred until we do the traffic study?
When
Can't-
schools,
Yeah,
Yeah.
how do we handle that, Mr. Hutto?
We could just have a resolution asking for the traffic studies for the ones that we've done now, and one for the traffic study for 8th to be done in the fall, the school's back in session, and then, take action after they're all completed.
Okay. And keep the same resolution number on the original? Okay.
further questions? Again, Brad, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you. Be safe.
I will.
Could've done that.
Next item?
Thanks.
Number 1, update on the status of the Lewisburg Water OPAB plan, actuarial value study required for the 6/30/2025 annual audit report.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I brought everything I could bring, so I don't know how much information. I know you guys were updated that we completed our audit. So from there, we went with One America. It's an actuary firm. And around the 1st of May, they gave us a list of items that they needed to complete the study that they needed to do. Lisa was able to get those uploaded, May 15th, I think she uploaded the final item or two. And then on May 29th, they sent us a list of a couple of questions to what we uploaded. It's my understanding from Lisa that she replied to that with some clarification on our end of what they were asking for. Got a auto reply back from the point of contact that she was having some family matters and would be out of the office. Reached out again, I think 4 or 5 days later, maybe that Friday, and got the same reply, so reached out to another contact at the company. They are trying to find, it's not their account, so they're trying to find out and help, as this lady's still out of the office now since May 29th. So we don't really know what's going on with her, some personal family stuff. But I believe that everything's moving forward. We were initially told on the 1st of May that it would be 6 to 8 weeks before they completed their study. So for a timeline, I think we're still on that timeline, and that might get delayed because the individual that has our account is out of the office, but I think at this point we're maybe a week delayed on that. So I think 6 to 8 weeks is still probably accurate. I know that numbers for this coming June 30th need to be given to our accountant, which I think, or I know Lisa is aware of that and tracking for this fiscal year. So we know what we have to submit for this fiscal year so that they'll be ready when they come to do our audit at the end of the year. So I think they require that by June 30th. So that's kind of the update right now. I'm happy to answer any questions. if
Just
they
a little
have any.
clarification, let me just add this.
Yeah, go ahead.
The reason I asked Jake to come in is that this one issue that was listed here on the agenda was actually listed as an audit item on the city of Lewisburg's audit report.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we asked you to come in and update us on that one item.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I understand that, and it's definitely, something that we don't want to carry over, obviously, so
Right.
the need to track it and follow up on it makes perfect sense, yeah.
Who is Lisa?
She's our accountant,
Okay,
yeah.
so she's waiting on an actuary?
The firm that, the actuary with the firm is out of the office on family. Her email, those auto reply emails are fairly nonspecific usually, but it did say family emergency, and that was May 29th, and I think it sounds like she's still not back in the office, so I'm sure that actuary firm is starting to pick up those pieces, just working with an engineering firm. Typically, if the engineer ends up being out longer than they expected, it's like, okay, who's gonna start, picking up the pieces here until they come back. So I think we're kind of at that phase right now. They're trying to get somebody to take over those accounts or split the load off. So, maybe next month's work session, we could have a better update, or maybe it'll be done. But right now, it's kind of just anybody's best guess as to where they're actually at, because we can't get an update for the last week or so.
But it is in progress.
Absolutely, yeah. It's been back and forth for the last month and then some change, so. Yeah, we're still thinking 6 to 8 weeks is a fairly safe timeline, so May, mid to end of June are hopefully wrapped up. But it's in their court right now, the ball's in, we're waiting to hear back from them, so.
But you're waiting for clarification on some information they need.
We are, yeah. So I don't know specifically what that information is. I didn't get that much detail from our accountant, but she is waiting for answers back for clarification that she asked them to be able to submit whatever it is that they're needing. So, there's gonna be some more back and forth for sure, yeah.
But is it correct that that affects our audit, the city's overall audit, to have that.
It was listed as an audit
Audit
item.
binding, it's an audit binding on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, further questions?
No. Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I don't mean to be rude, but I gotta run, so I'm not gonna hang out. Got a kids' swim meet to get to at the rec center, so you guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2, review and consider new bylaws for the industrial board. IDB members passed the bylaws at a special call industrial development board meeting on May 19th, 2025. Mr. Hutto.
Who wants to speak upon that?
Yeah, I do too, Mayor, it's probably kind of.
Okay,
All right, well, the Industrial Development Board's just been working on updating its bylaws. The main purpose of it was to potentially add the ability to have up to 3 board members that are not residents of the city of Lewisburg but live in Marshall County and either own, operate, or are employed by a business that is within the city limits, which might allow for some of the executives from larger companies that have a headquarters in Lewisburg, but they live outside the city to be industrial development board members. And then considering that the existing bylaws were the original ones from, I think, the mid-1950s, I just simply amended and restated them to be in compliance with the way the TCA's been updated, as well as just give a little bit more information that's useful, but it keeps the same number of directors, keeps their same authority, that none of that changes, keeps the IDB's purpose the same because it's all consistent with the TCA sections on that, and I believe that's about it. It does not, we could have added virtual meetings, but the board didn't want to do that, and hasn't wanted to, because that makes the public participation or notice a little more difficult. And then it also, I guess the other change was that the existing bylaws, you had to have a special called meeting to vote on amending them. And this set just says you can, as long as it's on the agenda, you could amend them at any meeting. And I think we also changed the election of the officers, which was set for October of every year, to be for July, just to be in more in sync with the actual terms of offices, which run from July to June.
how many total members are there of the industrial?
There are 9 total, and there are positions, and there are 7 that are filled at the moment.
But this is saying up to a third of it would be those.
Could be,
Outside.
it could be. They don't have to be, but it could be. Then the board was interested in that, considering how hard it's been to find qualified people that live inside the city and that are interested and available. Because there are plenty of qualified people that do live inside the city. It's just a matter of interest and availability, I think, and expanding this hopefully will allow for some of those interests and abilities and to overlap.
Councilman Burns, didn't you have some questions?
Yeah, I got a couple of things I'd like to see changed. Y'all want me to just go through them real quick, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the resolution, those dates may need to be changed, Mr. Hutto, on the resolution, May 19th, because at that board meeting, I discussed some changes that I may recommend to the council, so it's got May 19th on there, so I don't know if that needs to be changed or not. Item 2, you see what I'm talking about?
Here on this front. page.
Yes.
Yeah.
You see it?
I think that would probably depend on the nature of the changes you're about to tell me, and we would need to
Okay,
change
well, I mean,
that.
I didn't want to come back to that. Okay, page 2. And really, I've got some questions, and I'll try to be quick, everybody. Page 2, first paragraph, section 1. Third sentence, it says electors.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my question is, that definition of that, they have the right to vote, but do they have to be a registered voter? I guess I'm trying to define the word a little bit better so I understand it.
I'd have to double check on that,
Okay.
whether they actually have to be registered voters, but it's essentially, they have to have the right to vote
Right.
in a Marshall County or City of Lewisburg election, depending on where they live.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to be registered, and that language is in almost exactly the same, as what the TCA says, so
Yeah.
whatever it means is, but we,
I just want to, kind of define so we'll know. Section 2, it says new terms, 2 years, 4 years, and 6 years. And we've already got kind of the terms established.
right, and that's
So,
the,
If we got 3 vacancies coming up,
the original terms and the original bylaws were set up the same way. And so what will happen in practice is that as the current term members expire, they'll have that staggered system where you don't have hopefully more than 3 members with less than 2 years' experience. You'll only have 3 terms expiring every 2 years. So that's just gonna keep things exactly the way they are.
so the 3 that's coming June 1, 2025, when we appoint somebody, they'll be staggered. They won't get the 6-year term except one of them, right? One of them will get 6, one of them will get 4.
They'll have the same term whoever they replace.
Well, that's,
But
well,
they're changing it.
No,
that's
we're
what-
not changing
Oh,
any
you're
of the
not?
terms.
Okay.
We've got 6-year terms now. It was set up under the staggered system when it was originally done. So this will just continue that same 6-year system with staggered terms of office for the members.
So I guess my question is this. Okay, the 3, when we appoint them, they expire 2025, so they'll get a 6-year term. Okay, so they won't get 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 6. Okay, that's all I want. I want to keep
They
the,
wouldn't get the same term as who they're replacing?
well, that's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to establish, yeah. I mean, I think they should, yeah. Yeah, I think they should.
Yeah, if one of the openings only has 2 years left on its term, then they only have 2
Of course,
years
yeah,
Yes.
of course,
there.
yeah,
But I
yeah,
think
yeah.
all the terms that are open are expired or are expiring, so there'll be new 6-year terms.
Okay, guys, that's one now. And then, third paragraph, it says, term of these directors to be calendar year. Should that read,
We run fiscal year, don't we?
fiscal year?
3rd paragraph.
Eighth word?
Sure. I believe somewhere in here it's going to say that the, IDB's calendar years from July 1 to
It does, it
June
does.
30th. So
But should that not
that would
be-
be the calendar year that it's following. So it's going from July 1 to June 30th.
So it shouldn't be changed to fiscal year?
No, because it,
Well, as long as that calendar year is defined as being the same as our fiscal year.
Would it
I mean,
hurt?
we can change it to fiscal year, but it's,
Is
it's
that
gonna
all right
be.
with everybody?
Well, if it's
Well,
defined other places,
As long as it's defined.
as long as
is
it's
what it
defined
is.
somewhere, I
Yeah.
don't,
Fiscal year would be January to February,
Calendar year be,
I mean, January to December,
yeah, that's calendar year,
yeah, calendar year.
but
But
the
just like
July
they-
1 to June 30th is what the city
Yeah,
runs
yeah.
on. I mean, you got it on the document. I mean, is everybody,
Where's it defined, Mr. Hutto?
we're gonna get there.
Well, I see where the fiscal year is defined as July 1 to June 30th. And that may have been what I was thinking about, but we can, that's. We change that one to say fiscal, just so that there's no confusion down the road.
Yeah.
Because these appointments are expiring at the end of the fiscal year.
Right. And then the next paragraph, second sentence, what it says, should any, the whole thing, should any position of director become vacant prior to the expiration of the term, the board of directors may nominate and confirm a qualified individual. That's changed. The way it is now, if somebody dies, resigns, or just quits, it has to come back before the council. So can we add city council to confirm or appoint or approve, whatever the wording is, instead of the board of directors?
Well, I think,
That's the way it is now. If somebody,
that would require the IDB to revote, because that
Well,
was
they're
one of the
gonna have
things
to
we
they're gonna have to-
specifically,
they're gonna have to revote anyway,
specifically discussed and.
because you've already changed from commissioners to city council. They're gonna have to revote anyway.
All right.
I mean,
I mean,
mean,
the council can send it back with that recommendation. I think
That's what I'd like to do. we can
The
approve our
purpose
version.
of having a vacant position be filled was just to simply fill it more quickly for the shortened term, where they wouldn't have positions open for 6 months to a year, as these two are right now.
Yeah. Well, I'd rather see it come back to council, whatever y'all think.
I think so too.
That's how we are now. That's why it is now, Ron.
Well, it comes back anyway, don't it? I mean,
Well, it won't if we don't change the wording.
I thought it always has come back to the council.
But,
Well,
I
it
mean,
does, but it's saying if it becomes vacant prior to the expiration. So if somebody quits or is ill or whatever, and they're unable to serve, this is the way it's written now. The board, the IDB would be able to just appoint somebody without it coming to the council. And Tommy's saying he thinks that it needs to come to the council.
To keep it like it is now.
To
It
be
comes-
consistent.
It comes back to the council.
we can send that back with that recommendation, and, however y'all want it done is however it can be done. I think the IDB was looking at simplifying the logistics for, what might be a 1-year term or a 6-month term, or even a 2 or 3-year term, not having to wait to fill that.
But we'll just have to do a better job as council and get them filled. I'd like to see it stay like it is and use that language.
All right, well, we can
I
just
agree with that.
add subject to confirmation to it.
Ronnie, you and Vicky good with that? Okay. To leave it like it is, basically, is what
Yeah.
All right.
is
What
being
we're doing
stated.
now.
Which means making the change, the recommendation for the change,
Yeah, so it'll have to come back before.
to come
I
back
talked to
before
the
the
chairman
council.
today. I don't think I think his and the board's deal was getting the membership where he could have the city and county and the minor stuff. I don't think he had a problem with.
Well, and I think we can make these draft changes, the council can approve them, and then the IDB can approve them, and not, if y'all have both approved them, I don't know, they have to approve it and have it come back up here if y'all have.
I mean, what
But
I'm,
what if they don't agree with it?
what I'm envisioning is
Then they could,
we make changes and the council pass their version and send it to the industrial board.
we can do that, and, as long as they don't have, as long as they're okay with those changes, most of which are,
Well, I notified them, not last meeting, you was there, the meeting you missed, I notified Eddie that meeting that I was gonna request some changes in the document.
well,
And I think they put that in, didn't they add that to the minutes?
Yes, it's not in the current minutes.
but they amended the
Yeah.
minutes.
Just, can I ask a question for point of clarification about what you're, so is what you're asking, so you're saying, I think I understand that Mr. Hutto will amend it to the amendments you've asked for. It will come back to council for approval next week. And then it does or doesn't need to go back in front of the IDB for their approval. It's not gonna start a cycle, or it is?
No, I don't think so.
Yes, sir?
Well, I guess, let's say that, the current bylaws require a special called meeting to vote to amend the minutes. And I think, you know, the time and place to have, gotten these changes would have been better at a special called meeting. 'Cause
I guess I
don't wanna have to-
mean practically, because I agree with you, practically, it's not gonna happen. I just meant.
The what?
Just sort of quote unquote legally, is that,
What they voted on, he's already changed the document.
right.
So what they voted on is not the correct document to
That's
start with.
correct. That's correct.
So they're
So
gonna
they
have to
need
go
to
back
vote.
either way.
They need to go back.
Yeah, but
That's-
we,
okay.
I'm trying to get us to approve a
I
version that's
understand.
good with
I
us.
understand. I
and
just
cover the
wanna make
city.
sure I do the right thing when I set up their next meeting in terms of, they need to approve it again. Y'all approve it, they approve it.
Yeah, I've talked to Eddie, I think he's
Okay.
aware of that, yeah.
Sorry for the interruption.
anything else in here?
Yeah, a bunch. So you're gonna change it to city council? I'll make a hurry so everybody can get home.
Yes, that would be, yeah, that changes will be put in.
Okay, page 4. Okay. Page 4, section 4, 1, 2, 3, kind of the fourth sentence. It still has the president there. They have no president. So and this is what I talked to Eddie about it. He recommended this. That should read, the treasurer, under review of the board of directors, and pursuant to the policies and procedures of the corporation, shall sign all orders and checks for the payment of money, and shall pay out. So the treasurer brings everything to the board for approval to write a check. So they have no president. So, and I called Eddie today, to see if he had a problem with that. He said he didn't, because that's the way they're doing it now, and it just makes things simpler because the treasurer brought it back, but it's actually right there, instead of the president, it should be the treasurer under the review of the board of directors. So delete president, add treasurer, and under review of the board of directors. And the other sentences are fine.
All right. I think, probably just strike the president under the review and just have the treasurer pursuant to the policies and procedures of the corporation shall sign all the checks, et cetera, under the direction of the board of directors, and that says the same thing.
Well, I mean, that's fine, as long as president's deleted and treasurer under the direction of the board of directors. So how are you gonna word it?
All right.
And then in section 5,
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, fourth sentence again, it says with the exception of the president, that they have no president. So should that be chairman or?
I think we just cross everything out before that comma and just go with the officers of the board of directors, the elected from among the directors.
Okay.
I think so too.
Can you just replace the president with chairman?
Sir?
Just replace the president with chairman?
Where are you, Ron?
That sentence.
Okay, change it.
This, just change the word president to chairman. Then Mr. Hutto suggested just taking the first part of the sentence out and starting with, the officers of the board of directors shall be elected from among the directors. Either way,
Yeah, if you
it
just
kind of
changed
says
it
the same
to
thing.
chairman, then you could elect anybody chairman of the IDB that wasn't necessarily in the board of directors.
What do you think, Ron?
I just made a suggestion. I mean, you say you can elect anybody chairman. I mean, you're gonna have a chairman, there won't be but one chairman at one time.
I don't
I
have a
think it
problem.
would be the same thing as the president, just the chairman instead of the president.
That's fine.
Could you change it to chairman, Mr. Hutto?
Sure.
It's the same position,
Yeah.
just the name.
Yep.
This is
Yeah,
just,
but they don't elect the president, is what I'm trying to say. Section 1 down there, page 4 still. Anyway, it says 7 days in advance of a proposed meeting. And my question is, it's 7 days there, and then on page 5, section 5, notice of meetings, you've got regular meetings at least 48 hours, but we've got 7 days in advance over here. Section 5, notice of meetings, A.
So
I just want to
those two
clarify.
notice are the place of meetings. That one's saying that if you're going to change where you're meeting, you've got to give at least 7 days' notice of the change to the place. But a regular meeting, if it's set where it's supposed to be set, because if you're going to change the place of meeting, you're probably going to change it for a permanent reason, and continue to meet there, so you wouldn't have to give 7 days' notice each time. But and that's where the regular meetings, that notice is only 48 hours, which is in line with the current notice requirements in the TCA.
So you think those two are fine in section 5A, keeping it 48 hours?
Yes.
Okay, and then B, the same thing, 48 hours, right?
Yes.
Okay, page 6 again, section 6, ad hoc committee, first, second, third sentence, over to the word president again.
Well, we can switch that to chairman.
Yeah, yeah. You got it? See? Page
You got
6.
it?
Yes.
Oh, you got that? Okay. About done. Yeah. Page 7, just right here, Mr. Toto, page 7, right here. Just, that probably needs to be single spaced.
Probably. It's
Yeah.
always a mystery the way
No,
Word prints
no,
out
I
extra,
understand that, that's just
extra wide lines.
last page, everybody.
what was that on 7?
It's just a space.
It looks like a bigger space than a regular.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right past the 6th sentence, wrong, on the indemnification. And then the last page, adoption amendment of the bylaws, section 1. The bylaws of the corporation shall be established. Bylaws may be amended time to time with the approval of majority vote of the directors at the regular meeting. I just want to add again, it's got to come back to council.
Well, that's exactly how it is now, except it requires a special called meeting to make the amendment. I believe it's the TCA that requires approval after the board itself has amended the bylaws.
Can we put it in there just to make sure in future years?
I'll check it with the statutes, but I mean, that's exactly how it is right now. It's nearly the same language, just a little bit longer sentence.
Yeah, if we can, add, approve it by the city council also. And then, the date they approved it on the 19th, because they didn't approve even the changes you made, so they didn't approve the original thing. So just, change that date, or however the wording we need to do for us, and then, have a place for the mayor, I guess, to signature the date, mayor sign, recorder
The
sign.
mayor's not a member of the Industrial Development Board. He
I know,
wouldn't
but
sign this.
what do we approve of this?
He would sign the resolution approving the
Okay, all
bylaws,
right, all right.
but he wouldn't sign the bylaws.
Okay. Well, that date still, that's misleading to say they approved it when the language has changed since then, from then.
They did approve it at that time, didn't
They approved it, but Mr. Hutto has
they?
changed,
With the changes,
from commissioners to city council.
Yeah, but they haven't approved it.
Simple wording,
With these changes, they haven't approved it.
simple wording.
did they approve it did they approve it with the changes? Or they just say they approved it?
Not with these changes.
No.
But Mr. Hutto has changed a couple things since they have approved this on the 19th. So they're gonna have to reapprove it anyway.
Yeah, but it was approved on the 19th. They gonna have to
Sorry?
it was approved, wasn't it, on the 19th, but they gotta
Approve it in a different form, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Well, so we're gonna say they didn't approve it? I mean, they did approve it at that time.
Approved it, well,
But it was a different version.
it's a
I
different
know,
version.
but so they just have to come back and, I mean, it was approved.
Well, I mean, we can keep the 19th as long as legally it don't bite somebody one day.
Well, since y'all aren't gonna vote to approve this resolution, the 19th date doesn't really matter, and when it comes back in as a resolution, it will have the correct date on there, but
Okay,
you'll-
That's fine.
that's fine.
So what we're suggesting, or Councilman Burns suggesting, is that if we're comfortable with these changes, we will approve it and then send it to them for their approval?
Yes, sir.
Now, I have a question. Sorry, have you completed yours? Questions?
Yes, sir.
Now, the bylaws, I assume, says that a member of the council cannot be a member of the IDB board. Is that in the?
correct, that's in both of them, that you can't have any city employee or elected official as a member of the board.
Okay, so, using this as an example,
I'm an example.
There you go, wrong with it.
He told me off.
yeah, well, that elected official, but what I'm saying, when we're changing it to where there's potential to be 3 from the county, and it said that you would own you could live outside, but you'd own a business. I'm gonna use a theoretical one because I don't think he has a business anymore that I know of, could be. But if Tony Byer, who lives in the county, was nominated, he's an elected commissioner. So you're saying that he would be prohibited because the bylaws say no elected officials, is that?
Well, no Lewisburg elected officials. If you're a county commissioner, or if you were a state representative, you could
Gotta be city, you talking
be on
about.
the board, but you can't be a city council member or an employee of the city.
So-
Well, maybe we need to change that to reflect that if they were an elected member of a county seat, since we're expanding the scope of who could be a member to a person who's not just a Lewisburg resident. You see what I'm saying?
I think it says that, doesn't it, Mr. Huddle? Or not?
If it says any elected official, that would have
Okay.
solved the problem, but what we're
It's not
saying
spec-
does it
not
specifically.
a Lewisburg.
So you understand my question?
Sure, and we could certainly add to exclude, any Marshall County elected officials
Or maybe
for membership.
any elected officials, like say a state representative or state senator? We wouldn't have that situation now. Is that, what's your thoughts on that?
You know,
What's the best way to word that?
It can simply be any elected official, and that would,
That would cover it.
that would cover it, whether they're city, county, or state.
Okay. That's keeping it simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that gonna make Tony Bowles have to resign?
No, he's not on the board.
He's,
Okay. I thought
He
you-
doesn't live in the county. I'm just using that as an example
Example, okay.
of someone who would meet the new criteria, the new bylaws,
Okay,
that if he may very well still own the business, but the criteria for the one in the county, they must live in Marshall County, but they also have to have a business inside the city limits. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes, they either have to
Or work
own a
for.
business or work for a business within the city limits.
Tony Byers is a good friend of mine. I'm just using that as an example, and
No, I've dealt with him as a banker before,
and
recruiting the industry.
Would be an
He's a
excellent-
financial genius.
but to be consistent, I think,
Cannot be an elected official.
yeah. Everybody good with that?
okay, I got it.
So-
Go ahead.
We make the changes, send it back to the ID board. Okay, do we need to make the last, do they need to come back to us again after they approve it?
No, because we're gonna approve it with the changes.
Okay. We approve it with
Yeah,
the-
Unless
it-
they have issues.
Yeah, unless they have issues with the changes, but
Okay,
And I don't really think they did. I mean, they were, I talked to Eddie today and yesterday at the bank. I don't think.
Okay, timing. Are we wanting this for next Tuesday? That's a little quick. or-
No, because they would.
Mr. Huddle, I'll leave
there'll
that
have
to
be
you. What-
Another special called meeting to approve these changes, amending the bylaws by the IDB, so I think we could word and vote on a resolution to send these back to the IDB for approval, and if approved by them, then they're approved by the city if there's no further changes. But they'll have to have a special called meeting to do that.
The council will?
No, the IDB will.
What? So are we trying to get this by Tuesday?
No, they don't, there's not enough time to have the special called meeting, because you have to have
No, no, I'm
5
talking
days
about
notice of that.
what's been proposed to change. Are we,
For the council.
Yes,
for the
yes.
council.
are we,
We can,
is that comfortable for you to get those changes made for the council meeting,
sure.
if you're Tuesday?
He's already got it on a Word document, maybe, so all he's got to do is
Just make these changes
just make the changes.
And then the special call by the IDB board will come next.
after that.
We'll be done
So this will
after
be-
Tuesday.
Without objection, then, this will be on the agenda Tuesday.
Works for me.
Everybody good? Ronnie, you good?
I won't be here no more.
All right,
Give us your blessings.
anything else on this subject? Okay, final item.
Item 3, discuss of modifying Title 13, Chapter 2, Section 13-206, yards and vacant lots for tall grass, section of the Lewisburg Municipal Codes. Chris Rush.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. This is basically a draft of basically last work session and some of the ideals that was bounced around. Basically, you can see, hopefully you have the staff report in front of you. Draft A and Draft B are exactly the same. Only difference here is with Draft A and Draft B is the fines. We basically, with this draft, we bring it down from 10 days, just a 7-day notice, just calendar days. We're taking away the basically 10 days business days there. And this is as soon as we can do it. I already coordinate with Brandon there and working out a timeline. This is as fast as we can do it. And basically here is, bringing down from the foot to 8 inches. Also, there's some things you need to be aware about a liability issue if Public Works are actually going to do the work, that we could be liable for any kind of damage to properties if, Public Works is end up doing the work. Also, there's options. We have talked, Hutto and me have talked over email about if you guys want entirely to redo the Municipality Code Section 13. He brought up MTAS and he can speak further about that, or we can do what other cities have done and adopt the international municipality codes. At what Columbia does, and at what Pulaski ended up doing, because they had one case of basically they was out on a job site doing public work, and a applicant came along and said, "Hey, you damaged my window," and they ended up paying for it, and that was the last time they did it, and they just adopted the international maintenance codes there.
We don't have insurance that would cover that?
I believe we do have insurance, if I'm not mistaken.
We do, but it's gotta meet the deductible on it.
What's a deductible?
I believe it's 1,000.
It's 1,000.
So it's up to y'all how you want to proceed forward. You guys can basically, we can update our current municipality codes. You guys can pick between Draft A and Draft B's. Only difference there is the fine amount. I talked with Brandon. We believe Draft B on the violation and amount would be more suitable.
I like draft B.
Or we can totally redo it and just do either in the International Municipality Code there. And that's basically, it covers more of the exterior and interior there. And if you guys want, I can basically go ahead and purchase the PDF of it, and you guys can view it so you guys get an idea of what it would look like.
Yeah, I would like to study that myself and look
Okay.
at it, so I don't think that this will be ready to put on
Correct.
Tuesday's agenda, because I would like to see what Mr. Hutto has and see what you have and compare them, because we might merge those together.
Right, because our, when I was looking at, some of what we're wanting to do is already in our current property maintenance standards, other than I think it's 12 inches instead of 8.
Correct.
And the real issue with it is just in the notice and enforcement portion of it and how that operates. And so I've both got the MTAS model, which is also very similar to ours, but different. So I think there are things that have been put into ours that are maybe specific to Lewisburg, what Lewisburg has wanted in the past. So I didn't want to wholesale wipe it out without a full discussion of are there things in it that we do want in terms of maintenance and don't want, that are tailored to Lewisburg in its character. And then there's, as Mr. Rush was saying, there's the liability issue. You can also, instead of having Public Works do it, you can hire a
Third party.
third party to do it, and they're gonna be responsible for the liability issues, for the small ones at the very least, like windows or flowers or, utility lines that they may cut on the side of the house. rather than Public Works being responsible, and so that's something to consider too. And then the Pulaski ordinance, as long as the notice time that's required by the TCA is met, we could have that set up where it's administratively handled until, unless someone ignores fines from the codes department, and then if they've done that, then it goes to court, whereas now I think they're just going straight to a citation and going to court under our current system, and that's not the most efficient use when we got codes department and planning department that could pursue those violations first. And they could also be turned into liens and collected the way delinquent taxes are collected as well.
Okay, so we need to delay this so y'all can get together and decide.
Yeah,
Or
and
you
we
can
can,
send us the information, we can come back with our recommendations. on
yeah,
how it
I
should
think
be.
that would be the best steps moving forward is, Ms. Hutto can send you the MTS, and I can send you the International Maintenance Property
Perfect.
Codes, and we can see which one we prefer,
Yeah,
and we can make it how we want. We can suit it for the city of Lewisburg as
Yeah,
well.
we can just highlight it online, send it
Mm-hmm.
right back to you and say, this is important, this line's important to me, that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, we can work out that out,
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Works for me.
Now, does it address the habitual offenders, those that
On
have
the,
abused the system in the past?
on the International Maintenance Codes?
Well, before, we were told that if you had so many days to cut it, and they'd cut it on the 9th day, and then
We have,
it'd
no-
be the same thing during the
Yes, sir.
growing season, and we were told you had to wipe the slate clean, you couldn't pursue any
yeah,
any
it's,
kind of deterrent to stop them from abusing our time, I guess is what I'm saying.
yes, sir, you are correct in your analysis there. That's currently what's going on. People wait for the 9th day to actually clean it up, cut the grass, basically. And even when we take them to court on the citation, we immediately have to start the cycle again. We have to send out the notice and everything like that. So, currently, we don't have no punishment for repeat violators. We still have to make, still citations. We still have to send out, certified mail and everything like that. So it still costs my department more money, and they continue with the same violation every week.
Yeah,
So-
we need to address the repeat violators. We need
They
to
need to
cut
be
to the
cut.
chase.
Yeah.
We need, cut to the chase and get them, so.
We have to make it so that it behooves them to do what they're supposed to do and not keep offending.
Yeah, I think that's a main issue out there, because usually all the cases is repeat violators.
I would
So
imagine
my question is that incorporated in these new changes?
No, it's just dealing with the tall grass right there, but we would have to change another section on repeat violators there. We can, I haven't really looked into that, but we can do any kind of I think fines maybe on that. If they, same violations, maybe we can put a lien on the property at the end of the year saying you did more than 3 strikes on this one violation, do something there.
Mr. Hutto, is that,
I just.
do you think there's,
Yeah, I think we can certainly find some language and add it to handle repeat violations where, if someone's gotten more than 3 or 4 citations in a season,
We have people that make a career out of playing the system.
the fines
agree with
increase
that,
per
Councilwoman.
citation per year or something. So if you've got the 3rd citation, the fines are doubled or tripled, and they go up from there maybe.
Yeah, let's make
Yeah.
it painful for them if they keep offending.
Okay, so the next work session, by then I'll probably give you guys the international maintenance codes. You guys can evaluate that, and also Ms. Hutto can see the MTS. If you guys don't like both those models, we can just update our current codes for repeat violators and tall grass, so we could make it work, so.
okay, but that's not for Tuesday, correct?
Correct, this is not on Tuesdays.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I got one. You ever find out who, you sent me an email to cut my yard, I don't own that, did you find out who owned that?
I will get with Mr. Robert and Finley, make sure, sometimes the software isn't updated there, but if you can send me an email of the letter, I will make sure it gets resolved there.
I no longer own it, so don't find me.
Yeah, it's probably, the software has not updated with the current property owners and everything like that, so it's just, you know, basically either the county hasn't updated it yet, but I can reach out to the county and see who's the current property owner, and we will get them and notify them of the violation.
What about the one on Old Belfast,
Old Belfast,
Spring Place? You know, you told me you were looking for the owner.
oh, yes. Oh, yes, yeah, yes, I talked to Robert about
Who's paying the
that.
property taxes?
What we're trying to figure out, you know, most of the time it's trying to figure out who owns the property, because we deal with a lot of deceased individuals in it, and we're trying to figure out who owns the property, who's paying the property tax there. And, you know, if we can't find them, I told my code enforcement officers, just to basically, we need to start running an ad in the newspaper for 2 consecutive runnings. Then we would get with Public Works, and they would cut it, then we just put lien on the property taxes. That's why I told them moving forward on handling that if we can't find them. I think that's the proper legal way to do it.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Any other business? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I got one thing. Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is from, it's not Waste Management anymore, it's WM.
WM.
Back a few months ago, they had an open house where you could go up and take a van tour around the property. They explained to you how it worked, showed you all the new technology they had with it and all the green management stuff. They're doing it again this Thursday, June 5th, from 4:30 to 7 p.m. Van tour, information fair, Lawless Barbecue, and Kona Ice. So anybody wants to go up, tour the property, ask questions, have some barbecue, shaved ice,
What time?
4:30 to 7 p.m.
Pretty good thing.
Mary and I went the last time. It's pretty interesting up there. It's, so,
Any other?
that's it.
Did you make the motion?
I did.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. We stand adjourned. Thank you all. Mr. Hutto, I've got a quick question about.
No, no, no.